So the PlayStation 6 is real because it got leaked. Now I know leaks are sometimes incorrect, but this lines up with a lot of different things that Sony is currently doing in the public, which we'll go over, but this is leaked from a channel called Moore's Law is Dead, and they go over all of the specs in a 30-minute long video going over all the nitty-gritty details, so if you want to watch that, go ahead and watch it, I'll link it down below. But the PlayStation 6 is codenamed Orion, and one of the big things I noticed about this leak is it's going to be backwards compatible with the PS5 and the PS4. No PS3 though, which isn't that surprising because they haven't really done that at all. Sony's solution to PS3 compatibility was like the PS streaming thing that no one liked to use, that no one really used. But the PlayStation 6 being backwards compatible with PS5 games and PS4 games is genuinely great, especially PS4 games, because at this point that console is pretty old. And in general, it is nice to be able to play all of your console games on one specific console. PS3 compatibility would be really cool. I just don't really see it happening. The console's so old at this point. And the PS3 also, compared to the modern consoles we had today, had a really weird, bad architecture. Now the architecture itself wasn't actually bad. It was just the fact that no one knew how to use it, so no one made games for the PS3. That was like one of its biggest downfall. Now Sony will also be focusing on lowering the cost and the power consumption with the PlayStation 6. Now the cost being lowered is going to be relative to like the time, so it's probably going to be the same cost as the PS5, around $500 or so. It is super unlikely to be cheaper than the PS5, but it still might be $500 still. The cost seems to be a big factor for Sony, and they're really trying to stress getting that lower. They're also trying to keep the power consumption lower than the PS5. I don't know the specific reason for keeping the power consumption lower, but it's a good thing overall. It makes less heat, it produces less noise, and it gets you a slightly smaller power bill depending where you live. It's like a 40-watt difference or something along those lines. It's not a huge difference, but it's still nice they're lowering the power consumption, especially since the resolution and the FPS target is supposedly going to be about 4K with 120 FPS. Now, this will probably be like upscaled 4K because it's a console. Running native 4K is extremely taxing on any kind of system, especially if you're trying to push 120 FPS. That's a lot of frames to push when you're running in 4K. And even if the resolution is only upscaled 4K, I really doubt people are gonna super care. Upscaling technology has gotten really good. You honestly can't really tell the difference in most instances. The frame generation technology is a little bit more wishy-washy, like it does have artifacting and stuff like that, but upscaling tech in general has gotten really good. And also, if you're playing at a TV and you're sitting relatively far away, you're not gonna really notice if it's upscaled 4K or native 4K. It's not gonna look that much different. And on top of that too, I don't even know how common 4K TVs are. I know 4K monitors are not common whatsoever. So realistically for Sony, I don't think hitting native 4K is a really big concern. If it is though, that's a good thing. Like 4K resolution and 120 FPS is a good thing. It's just a good console leap. And supposedly this console will release in fall of 2027 or early 2028. From what I understand, the production is currently on schedule, so this is probably likely to happen. The only way I see this getting derailed is if Sony changes their mind or something just happens where they can't manufacture the console for whatever reason, because it looks like it's on schedule. Now, besides the PlayStation 6 leaks, there's also another console leak called Canis. And Canis is supposed to be a handheld console a lot like a PSP. It's supposedly going to be smaller than a lot of the consoles currently in the market, like the Steam Deck and the Switch 2. It'll be smaller than those, or at least it should be. The rationale for it being smaller is the fact that the TDP is supposed to be about 15 watts, and to put that in perspective, the Steam Deck is like 30 to 45 watts or something stupid. But supposedly it will be a much smaller handheld console because currently the Steam Deck and stuff are not very portable. They're very much like, they're big consoles. Now, compared to the PlayStation 6 leak, I think this handheld is like way more interesting. So supposedly Canis will also be backwards compatible with PS5 and PS4 games, which is already kind of crazy because this console's not going to be as powerful as the PS5. But Moore's Law brings up in his video that there's a low power mode for the PS5 that they're currently testing and trying to get people on board with. And he thinks Sony is trying to get developers to optimize that low power mode so when the handheld console comes out, the games actually run on it, which in my mind makes sense. And then as for the PS4 game compatibility, this thing will probably have no issue running PS4 games. I really don't see how it would. The PS4 is a significantly less demanding system than the PS5. But this handheld console named Canis will also have a micro SD card slot, which is a great thing. We love to see it. An NVMe SSD slot, which is a great thing. We love to see it. And the most interesting thing it might have is a USB-C port with video out. So this thing is probably going to be like a Switch 2. You're probably going to be able to plug it into a dock. It might up its power consumption a little bit, and you can just play games on the system like that. And if Sony does go through with it and make this handheld console, I'm really happy with that. I remember the PSP being like the coolest thing ever when I was a kid, and I really wanted one, but by the time I actually could have got one, they were like not popular anymore and they weren't supported anymore, so I didn't get one. And if this thing is like a PSP on steroids, I'm all for it. Especially since I'm not a huge fan of the PS Portal. I really don't see the use case for it. I've seen some people people talk about how they use the PS Portal, and it really seems like it's great if you have kids, because the kid can use the TV while you use your handheld console. But Sony making a new PSP, basically, I'm all for that. It's also not surprising at all if they go through with this, because we have Xbox with the ROG Ally, we have Steam with the Steam Deck, and we have Nintendo with the Switch. So PlayStation coming out with their own proper handheld console only makes sense. I would like to know if it runs PS6 games, though. It probably will, since Sony's going for a lower TDP on the PlayStation 6 and the PS5. It might still run those games. It would be kind of weird for them to release both these consoles around the same time and not support the games on the newest console. But yeah, these leaks are super cool. I'm actually pretty hyped for this console. It looks like it's going to be actually really good. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe if you're new. Follow me, Blue Sky down below. Check out my Discord server down below as well. If you get you down, check out all my content, and have a good one.